Well, hello and welcome to another Heart to Heart talk. With me, I am John Kuert, the interim pastor at Alpha Assembly in Clarion, Pennsylvania. And this week, I'm bringing to you this message from Minneapolis, where my son Jonathan and his family live. And it's pretty cold up here, but nevertheless, we're doing just fine. And we hope that you are too in Pennsylvania. But hanging around Jonathan often makes me circle back to this great story about one of Jonathan's sons and King David. It comes from 2 Samuel chapter 9. And one night after David had become king, I imagine he must have been sitting around at his table one evening and reminiscing about his dear friend Jonathan. And he remembers the covenant that he made many years before with Jonathan. And he asks the question in verse 1, "Is there anyone left from the house of Saul that I may show mercy to for Jonathan's sake?" And one of the servants tells him, "There is still a son of Jonathan. He's crippled in both feet. His name is Mephibosheth." And so David gives the order to find this young man because he wants to show kindness to him for the sake of his father, Jonathan. Now, David knew his own personal motivation, but imagine what Mephibosheth must have been thinking when he heard David's men were coming for him. In those days when a king came to power, it was generally accepted. The custom was that all possible heirs from the previous king would be put to death, or at least taken out of circulation somehow or another, because they'd be a threat to the new king. And so Mephibosheth was no doubt thinking that David was calling for him in order to kill him. But what a surprise when Mephibosheth comes before David and finds that instead of facing death, he is given a place of honor. And from that day on, he eats at his table, at the king's table, and becomes like one of David's sons. And it's interesting, he was adopted into the family. He received a new home. He received his inheritance, and he sat at the king's table. What a picture of the grace and mercy and love of God. You see, we're all like Mephibosheth. We're crippled by sin and just waiting for God's judgment. But instead, God sends his son Jesus to come for us. And if we receive him, we find that God makes us heirs and joint heirs with his son. And when we get connected with God through Jesus, we are adopted into the family of God. We are promised a new home. Heaven's awaiting us. John 14, "In my Father's house are many mansions." We receive the unsearchable riches in Christ as an inheritance that will never fade away. And we will sit at the king's table and feast with him forever and forever, beginning right now. So like the old hymn says, what a marvelous, infinite, matchless grace that we have. Sometimes it almost seems too good to be true. But you know what? It is true. Just like it was for Mephibosheth, so it is for us. Well, that's the good word for today, folks. We have a lot to look forward to if we surrender our lives to the Lord, if we live for him. And I hope that you are. And if you're struggling with that, then call me at the church, Alpha Assembly. You can look at us up online, alphaag.org, or you can go to our Facebook page, and that's where you'll find these heart-to-heart talks that we record. And you can contact the church and even come and visit us. We'd love to have you. There's a warm welcome awaiting you when you come and visit Alpha Assembly at 499 Greenville Pike in Clarion, Pennsylvania. Well, that's it for today. God bless you. Lord willing, we'll see you soon, right back here for another heart-to-heart talk. God bless and have a great day. Bye-bye.